The wind howled through the worn-out siding of the small house on the edge of town. James Carter stood on the cracked driveway, hands shoved deep in the pockets of his faded jeans, staring at the rusted Chevy pickup sitting under a collapsing carport. It wasn't much, but it was all he could afford. A single dad to a curious 7-year-old girl and fresh out of work after the local mill shut down, James was trying to rebuild. He'd sold his own truck just to cover last month's rent, and the miles were starting to feel long without wheels. This old Chevy was a last-ditch effort, a prayer on 4 bald tires. The front door creaked open, and an elderly woman stepped out, her gray hair pinned back in a tight bun. "You must be James," she said softly. "I'm Margaret." He nodded, offering a polite smile. "Yes, ma'am. Thanks for meeting me." They walked toward the truck together. James ran a hand along the peeling paint. "Does it run?" "Like a tired old man," she chuckled. "But yes, it runs. My husband bought it new in '83. It was his baby until the day he passed." James hesitated. "I'm sorry to hear that." She gave a slow nod, eyes drifting for a moment. "He was a soldier. Came home from Afghanistan and never quite left it behind." Then she cleared her throat. "But you don't want the story. You want the truck." James was about to protest, to say he didn't mind the story, but Margaret was already unlocking the door. He slid behind the wheel, turned the key, and the engine sputtered to life like an old dog roused from sleep. "How much did we agree on?" he asked, reaching into his coat. She waved her hand. "2,000, but I'll let it go for 1,500. James blinked. "Ma'am, that's too kind." "I'm not doing it for you," she said, smiling faintly. "I'm doing it for him. He always said that truck was meant to help someone someday." James nodded slowly, overwhelmed by her generosity. He handed over the cash and promised to take care of it. As he drove off, his daughter Lily squealed with excitement from the passenger seat, bouncing as the old truck hit a pothole. For the first time in weeks, James felt a flicker of hope. But the real story wasn't over. A few weeks later, while digging through the glove box to find the registration papers, James found an envelope. Inside was a black and white photo of a young soldier grinning and dust-covered. On the back was scrawled, "To the man who dragged me out of the flames, I owe you my life. Tom." James stared at the name. Tom Whitmore. His hands trembled. He remembered that name. How could he forget? Back in Kandahar, 2006. Their convoy had been ambushed, and one of the Humvees caught fire. James had been pinned down, wounded and dazed, until a soldier pulled him out of the wreckage, risking his own life in the process. That man's name. It had been Tom. Tom Whitmore. He never knew what happened to him afterward. Until now. James sat in the truck for a long time, staring at the photo, remembering the smoke, the screams, the chaos, and that strong hand that had pulled him from the flames. The next day, he returned to Margaret's house. She looked surprised to see him. "I didn't realize who your husband was," James said quietly. "He saved my life." She stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide. "In Kandahar. I was the man in the Humvee." Tears welled in her eyes, and she pressed a hand to her mouth. "He always wondered if you made it." James nodded, voice cracking. "I did. Because of him." They sat in the kitchen for hours, talking, crying, sharing stories. James brought Lily by later that week. Margaret baked cookies and pulled out photo albums. Lily called her Grandma Maggie before the month was out. The old truck never made it past 60 miles an hour, but it carried something greater than speed. It carried legacy. And sometimes, the things we think are worn out, old trucks, faded photos, weathered hearts, are exactly what carry us forward. Because kindness travels farther than any engine ever will. And sometimes, in the most unexpected ways, life brings us full circle. Don't forget to believe in second chances.